Hello, welcome to the Liffin Report. Today we're going to have some fun talking about Jummah prayer in Shariah. Yet, as this is a Christian show, I always start with a reading of God's Word. And I do want to say, if we have time, we're going to be talking about one of the most controversial things I have seen this week, which is Hamas's release of a 16-page document. And I'm going to say, if you haven't heard Usama's take on this, you definitely want to turn in this Sunday at 10 o'clock because you want to hear this piece. It's you can hear it on my channel, you can hear it on his channel, and there's 6 other channels we'll be live on. But I'll tell you, this piece, this is their defense piece, their propaganda, and it is a must listen to. I don't think we're going to have time to get much into it, but I'm going to give everybody the link today. So please take a look at this, share this with other believers, and talk to them about what they're saying, because it is a pack of lies and it needs to be destroyed today. And this is what I say. Usama did this today at 12 noon Central Time. There was a nationwide broadcast on VCY, and if you can, look for that. I was just playing for a little bit earlier for Sharon and Darcy. Yeah, and we only covered a little bit of it. Love to see some of us get together and tackle the whole thing. All right, let me get into the Word of God for today that I put aside. Today we're reading, and this is a longer piece, and I apologize because it's longer, and I just kind of think it fits for today. This is Acts 26, and we're reading the entire chapter. Then Agrippa said unto Paul, "You're permitted to speak for yourself." Then Paul stretched forth the hand and answered for himself. He said, "I think myself happy, King Agrippa, because I shall answer for myself this day before you, touching all the things whereof I'm accused of by the Jews, especially because I know you to be an expert in all customs and questions which are among the Jews. Wherefore I beseech you to hear me patiently. My manner of life from my youth, which was at the first among mine own nation at Jerusalem, know all the Jews, which knew me from the beginning, if they would testify that after the most straightest sect of our religion I lived as a Pharisee. And now I stand and am judged for the hope of the promise made of God unto our fathers, unto which promise our 12 tribes, instantly serving God day and night, hope to come. For which hope's sake, King Agrippa, I am accused of the Jews. Why should it be thought a thing incredible with you, that God should raise the dead? I verily thought with myself that I ought to do many things contrary to the name of Jesus of Nazareth, which thing I also did in Jerusalem, and many of the saints did I shut up in prison, having received authority from the chief priests. And when they were put to death, I gave my voice against them. And I punished them often in every synagogue, and compelled them to blaspheme. And being exceedingly mad against them, I persecuted them, even unto strange cities. Whereupon, as I went to Damascus with authority and commission from the chief priests, at midday, O king, I saw on the way a light from heaven, above the brightness of the sun, shining round about me and them which journeyed with me. And when we were all fallen to the earth, I heard a voice speaking unto me and saying in the Hebrew tongue, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? It's hard for you to kick against the pricks. And I said, Who are you, Lord? And he said, I am Jesus whom you persecute. But rise and stand upon your feet, for I have appeared unto you for this purpose, to make you a minister and a witness both of these things which you have seen, and of those things in which I will appear unto you, delivering you from the people and from the Gentiles unto whom now I send you, to open their eyes and to turn them from darkness to light, and from the power of Satan unto God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and inheritance among them which are sanctified by faith that is in me. Whereupon, O King Agrippa, I was not disobedient unto the heavenly vision, but showed first unto them of Damascus and at Jerusalem, and throughout all the coast of Judea, and then to Gentiles, that they should repent and turn to God and do works meet for repentance. For these causes the Jews caught me in the temple and went about to kill me. For having therefore obtained help of God, I continue unto this day witnessing both to small and great, saying none other things than those which the prophets and Moses did say should come, that Christ should suffer, and that he should be the first, and that should rise from the dead, should show light unto the people and to the Gentiles. And as he spake for himself, Festus said with a loud voice, Paul, you are beside yourself. Much learning does make you mad. But he said, I am not mad, most noble Festus, but speak forth the words of truth in soberness. For the king knows these things, before whom I speak freely. For I am persuaded that none of these things are hidden from him. For this thing was not done in a corner. King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know that you believe. Then Agrippa said unto Paul, you almost persuade me to be a Christian. And Paul said, I would to God that not only you, but also all that hear me this day were both almost and altogether such as I am, except these bonds. And when he had thus spoken, the king rose up, and the governor and Bernice, and they that sat with them. And when they were gone aside, they talked between themselves, this man does nothing worthy of death or bonds. Then said Agrippa unto Festus, this man might have been set at liberty if he hadn't appealed to Caesar. Now, this is my thoughts on this, and this passage could have been broken into a few pieces, and it's possible. However, I think sometimes it's better to swallow an entire chapter. Paul had a unique opportunity to present to the king, and he got a chance to present. Think about this. The last person that we know of who spoke to the equal authority, which, you think about Pontius Pilate, was Jesus. And he was silent. He was asked if he was the king of the Jews, and he said, you say that I am. So Paul's granted this opportunity to present his case. He begins with his own admission of who he was as a Jew and as a Pharisee. He was chief among those who persecuted the disciples of Christ. He not only captured them, but was one who bore witness against them, even those who were executed. He witnessed torture and threats. He took part and witnessed the torture and threats to leave their faith in Jesus. He was so passionate about putting out this light of Jesus, which shone in those claiming to be his disciples, he sought to pursue them and round up even more in Damascus. This sums up who he was before. But Paul continues by sharing his testimony of Jesus, having met him on the road to Damascus. His testimony is compelling. But what may have caught King Agrippa by surprise is what Paul says about why he's doing what he's doing. Paul gives his purpose as not being his own. It's a purpose given by Jesus, the one Paul believes to be the one who was prophesied of as the Messiah. That purpose is to open the eyes of the Gentiles and to turn them from darkness to light, to turn them from the power of Satan unto God. Paul could have stopped there, but this passage is paired with that they may receive forgiveness of sins, an inheritance among them which are sanctified by faith that is in me. This is a statement that the joy which Paul received from meeting the Messiah is a joy he absolutely must share. When you think about this, Paul's accused of being one who is so loved by Jesus, the Messiah, that he has an impulsive passion to share that love with anyone who will listen. King Agrippa's initial response is one of pretend ignorance. But Paul's not foolish enough to accept this stance and calls him out for it. This is part of the give and take in evangelism even today. People pretend they don't know things. When you call them out, again, it's part of the give and take. You have to call them out. You want people to come to Christ, you have to let them know they're playing games. And I think about this. This was an opportunity. This was an opportunity to share Christ, and Paul didn't miss a beat. And start thinking about that wherever you're at. Ask God to send you to someone. And that's my hope in what we're doing today, is that we will also be doing that while we talk about Shariah, as we've been doing. We're into 38 weeks at this. And it just seems, there's times, I'll be honest, I am tired of the section on prayer. I am looking forward to being done with this. We might be done next week or the week after. I'm not sure which. I am going to push to get it done next week. We only have these specialized sections on prayer. This is Jummah prayers. You have a couple other. You have the two Eids, and there's one other thing that there. I believe it's one other, or it might be two others. And I'm going to try and have this all finished, but I'm hoping by the end of next week. I'm just tired of Section F. I'm tired of learning about a God that invalidates prayers. I mean, that just makes him little tiny to me. I just can't understand people who would worship a God. I mean, just like this headline here on this page says, if you don't have enough people to pray, you can't do it. What kind of God does this stuff? I'm going to prove you that it says this, and it's right in Shariah. And then we're going to talk about some things we've talked about before. And this stuff is mind-numbing. And I wish I had a better way to put it, but the tediousness of going through this.
I've had enough brain numbing in the past 3 years. So.
But how many of us, when we read something and we go through it quickly, but when you go through something slowly, you get a whole lot more out of it. And I think that's part of why I'm doing this. It's also because while I'm going through scripture, I am seriously taking my time. As you see, I kind of went through that chapter. It seems like I'm erasing, but I don't think you can separate any of that. That's just, you could, but I don't think it'd be right at the same time. So I think you have to sit on things and chew them sometimes, and that's my best way to explain what I'm doing. All right, here we go. We are starting in F 18.6. And Darcy, would you like to read first?
Sure. F 18:6. It is unlawful for someone obliged to pray their Friday prayer to travel after dawn on Friday before having prayed, unless there is a place on his route where the Friday prayer will take place, or he is going to travel with a group of people not obliged to pray the Friday prayer who are departing, such that his staying behind would entail harm for him.
I think about this one. So if you're going to travel it's okay to travel if you're going to the mosque. Where does this concept come from? You remember that in the New Testament they talk about, well, you can't go so many steps when they're talking about the Jews. You can't do this, you can't do that on a Saturday, on a Sabbath day. Like, kind of amused by that when I think about it. Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. But what was the real intention? Was to honor the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. Did God say you can't take so many steps? No. Some of this stuff is man-made, and this is just crazy. It's just crazy. We're going to go on to the next one. I'm trying to rush through this because, again, I will say this is getting tiresome. Sharon, could you read F 18.7 down to D?
Yeah. In addition to the usual conditions for the prayer, a valid Friday prayer also requires A, that it be a group prayer, B, that it take place during the time of noon prayer, C, that it follow 2 sermons, D, that its site be located among the dwellings of the community.
Okay, wait a minute. Hold on for E. So now listen, this is where it gets interesting. We're going to talk about the sermon in a minute. But again, it's all these rules. Shariah is law. I'm being nice by saying rules. If you don't do this, okay, so you have to have a group prayer for Friday prayer. There are other prayers that would take place during this time, and we talked about that last week. If you pray the Friday prayer, you don't pray the other prayer. Oh, okay. Now, Has to be in a group. So I want you to think about your local prison, your local business where Muslims or wherever they're saying that they have to gather in group prayer. They must. It's a requirement. Okay. Here's the problem. Now, Sharon, can you read E?
That there be a minimum of 40 participants who are male, have reached puberty, are sane, that leaves a lot out, and are local residents, meaning they live there and do not leave except when they need to. Though the minimum, according to Abu Hanifa, is 3 participants besides the imam. Do you want me to do
All right. Wait a minute. So we got 40. Wait, you got to have 40 men, right? So in where I live, there is a bigger mosque, and all of the local mosques, which may have 5 to maybe 10 people going to each one of them. I have no idea how many mosques there are presently. You can have, they can all go there for every day for all their prayers if they choose to. But on Fridays, they all gather in one spot. And I've wondered about that for years. Why do they all go to the same mosque for Friday prayers? It's never made sense to me. This is the reason why. If you don't have 40 people, don't have 40 men. Now, we're not saying they wouldn't accept these imaginary genders concept. We're talking about male and female. We're not talking about the imaginary stuff. If you don't have 40 men, you can't pray. Now it's 39. Actually, you got the imam, and you have to have 39 more. Like, wow. So in the prison system, let's say you've said, okay, you can have your Friday prayers. There's 15. Well, you can do your normal prayers in your room or whatever. You don't have to have group prayer if you have less than 40. So, you hear people getting sued because they say they have a right to group prayer and you have to provide a spot for us. Wait a minute. If there's less than 40, you don't have a right to group prayer because it's not required. In fact, they tell you can't do it. So, show me you have 40 that are going to show up every time. And the minute you stop having 40, yeah, because legally under Shariah, you have to have 40. This Abu Hanifa is an outlier, and that's what they're saying. Well, you have to have 3 besides the imam. Think about that. That's 4 people altogether. Are there schools where you won't find 4? Absolutely. So what about prisons? Absolutely. I'm, you know what I have to say about this? I'm glad I'm a believer. Why? Because in Matthew 18:20, it says, for where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them. And this God, Jesus, does not negate our prayers if we don't have 40. Now, I like this. Houston Euler asked, does the minimum 40 have something to do with the reason Iran would be closing thousands of mosques instead of leaving them open to save face? That's a possible. I don't have an answer there. With Iran, it's, I don't know. Maybe they have a huge, I've heard that there's evangelism going on, and that may be one of the things, but I don't have a firsthand any contacts that are currently there, and that could, or people.
What that's telling me is Jesus is coming in dreams to more and more Muslims, so the number in Islam is dwindling, thus making all the thousands of mosques close.
I don't have a problem believing that. It could be, this could be the reason. I mean, because it's Iran, it would be, we're covering one of the schools of Shariah that is not Shiite. And I'm going to have to double check that in Shiite, see if there's a 40 requirement there. It wouldn't surprise me if there, I mean, most of the laws they both agree on. So it wouldn't surprise me if they also have the 40 requirement. And this is the stuff that should be making you think. And I find this could get really interesting, is what I think. And if you're talking about 40, I mean, you think about your area, and my bet is you may have more than one mosque, but they all do go and pray at the same one on Fridays. When I was in St. Cloud, Minnesota, I saw that. Been a few different places where I've actually seen this all going to the same particular place for Friday prayers. When you think about another problem with that, that makes the person who leads prayers or is the head imam, or however they want to put it, responsible, or is a head of all these other groups. They have to coordinate. They have to work together. So it gives them a little bit of authority. Or, they have to be cooperative. And that's the truth about that matter. But having to have 40, I don't know. Sharon, can you read F2 as well?
And that in places where it is no hardship for everyone to pray at one location, there be no other Friday prayer prior to or simultaneous with it. Example, in the opening, Allahu Akbar of the prayer. I hate saying that word.
Yeah. So think about this. On the right, take a look at this. If they miss the 40 days, this is my Google Translate, and then this is not a perfect translation. The imam is one of 40. So if they don't have the one of 40, then they have an issue. Again, they're all praying at one location. You notice this F, nothing in F is over here on the right. This is one of those things they made up to try and make us think it's true. There's nothing there. All right, there's nothing there. So this is the stuff we're talking about. This is why we have bad translations, and yet they're claiming this is a great translation because they believe English people are reading it. They think we're stupid. They don't think we can use a translation software piece. But even I can see it's not mentioned, and it just makes you think. What was their purpose in saying, well, you can't? Maybe they think English Muslims will look at this and say, oh, you can't have another prayer group going at the same time, even if there's 40 in your mosque, but you all want to gather at the one mosque down the street. Does it give, again, it gives that one imam more authority. It just makes you think. Okay, let's go on. All right. Can you read this page, Darcy, please?
Sure. The imam is counted as one of the 40 above. A group performing the Friday prayer must finish it as a noon prayer if the number of participants diminishes during it to less than 40, or if its time ends during the prayer with the coming of the mid-afternoon prayer's time. If the group has doubts before finishing the Friday prayer that they will be able to finish it within its time. Did I say that right?
Yeah,
Starting
then they must begin it as a noon prayer. So this noon prayer they're talking about. If you're there for the Friday, if you're there for Jummah prayers, you don't do the noon prayer. If you're there for the noon prayer, you're not doing the Jummah prayer. So it's almost like, I mean, this is where you do one and not the other. And if you have a mosque that is just one open place, you have to do the noon prayer at home. You can't do them both in the same time. And this is a difficulty. I've thought about that. Why don't mosques have two different rooms in general? And you'll see these big, huge areas where they can pray. Why don't you have at least two of those if you can have both prayers going at the same time? Or you could put latecomers coming in and they could go to a different imam. I mean, things that were possible that we could do today, but they don't think of it. Notice again on the right there's no Arabic, and only on the far right it says during that time completed at noon. I think that's that little bit. That's it. All this stuff on the right above that line that goes across, there's no Arabic for it. It's all made up. Some English translator thought it would be good for someone to be deceived. I mean, this is where I'm getting frustrated at looking at what's truthful and what's not. They want us to be deceived. What's the real intent here? In Houston, I think there's a good possibility you're right. Maybe they don't have enough people to keep a mosque open. They don't have 40 men. They might have 40 women. It does make you think. All right, going on. Back to Sharon, F18.8.
Okay.
Yeah, here we got Red joining us. Hey.
Oh, Rad's here.
Hey, I'm driving.
Okay.
In places where having everyone assemble in one location is a hardship, as in Cairo or Baghdad, it is valid to hold as many Friday prayers as are needed. In places where it poses no hardship, such as Mecca or Medina, if 2 Friday prayers are held, the first of them, to open with Allahu Akbar, it is the Friday prayer, and the second is invalid and must be reprayed as a noon prayer. If 2 are held in such a place and it is not clear which is first, they should start over together as one Friday prayer. Oh boy.
So you pray one. Okay, we're back to you. If you pray Friday's prayer, the other one's invalid. What kind of God invalidates prayer? Every time we see this, you got to sit there like, and it has to be just so. Because if it's a Friday prayer, you do this. If it's another prayer, you do that.
Well, it's got to be from the God that says it's okay to lie in certain situations.
So
even though it's supposed to, we should not lie at all.
And again, Jesus would not accept these things that they're doing as prayer. He would call them vain repetitions, because all they're doing is going through motions, repeating surahs, and in the midst of it, you bang your head on the ground, you get a nice little mark right here, and you go around proud because you earned that mark by banging your head. I will say it's banging your head. You put your head to the ground so many times, and I have a friend who was in prison and became a Muslim in prison, and he talks about how they were proud of these little marks. It made them feel great because, they were more pious than others because they earned those marks. Isn't that the same thing as telling other people you pray and, boosting? I mean, it's really vanity. It's not pride. That's vanity. It's worthless. It gives them nothing.
Are you talking about that dot on their head when they bang their heads real hard?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. A nice little mark.
I think it's called a zabiba.
Okay. I just call it a prayer bang. Okay. The bang mark. I mean, I don't know a better thing to actually call it. Even if they have a name for it, and they'll hold it up in reverence. But really, what is it? It's a sign that you banged your head on the ground. Okay, stop banging your head on the ground.
Couldn't they damage their frontal lobe?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And that may be another explanation why so many people are, what was Darcy's word here? That may be a reason why Darcy is asking this question. You bang your head on the ground how many times? I mean, are you left? Do you lose your sanity? I don't know. I would think it's a good reason to go back and do a study on concussions. Can you get a concussion from banging your head on the ground? It makes you wonder. I'm kind of curious when I think about it.
There is a lot of mental trauma from what they go through, starting from when they're really little. You know, the physical and mental abuse.
Yes. And I think that's related to a lot of the child rearing and the things that are allowed under Islam. Parents are allowed to kill their children. So when us kids of the 60s and 70s said, Mom's going to kill us, we didn't mean she was literally going to kill us. We did something stupid, and Mom was going to be mad, and we were either going to get our butts beat or we were going to just make her mad, and that's a horrible thing to do. Okay? We never meant she would physically go and execute us. No. But that's an actual real fear, or and they would say Dad'll kill us, and it would be real. I mean, it's a literal thing for them because it's allowed under Shariah. We're going to talk about that as time goes on, but it's these concepts you have to stop and think about. All right, I have to go back one. Okay, we are on to F18.9. And Darcy, if you could read down to C.
Sure. The sermon. The integrals of the sermon are 5, and the order is Sunnah. A, B, and C, as below, are required in each of the 2 sermons, while D may be in either, and E must occur in the second, as mentioned below. Saying Alhamdulillah, this particular utterance being prescribed, the blessings of the Prophet, which is also a prescribed utterance, and joining God-fearingness, for which a particular expression is not prescribed, it being sufficient to say, obey Allah. The above integrals
are obligatory. Okay,
right.
Look on the right here. Notice a word that is missing. On the right, it says the pillars of the sermons. Okay, integrals, pillars. Okay, we're talking about the integrals. We could use that word. Integrals of the sermon are 5, and the order of the integrals. Notice what word's missing there.
No, the sunnah.
Okay, this person who uses the term sunnah, who does this translation, I think this is where I was talking with a Muslim student about this term sunnah and how it's used in this translation. And he actually got upset that it was being used like this. I mean, he didn't know I said that, we were talking, and I let him know I'm studying myself, studying Shariah myself. And he thought it was fascinating, that somebody would do that. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, what do you think of this word being used to mean something it doesn't mean? It got him really upset. And I get that. I think this is scary, this misuse of the word sunnah. I think it needs to be reserved for meaning it. When you say something sunnah, it means it's a requirement, it is in the hadiths and the sirahs. All right? When you're saying something is sunnah, it's there. It's part of Islam because it's in their scriptures. And this meaning that they're giving here, well, it's part of the Shariah. That's not what that means. And this is, I have this problem. And Don Karib came up with a name for the headbang. Zabiba. All right. Good. All right. Darcy, can you read D and E also, please?
Reciting one verse of the Quran that conveys an intended meaning, such as a promise, a threat, exhortation, or similar, in at least one of the two sermons, and to supplicate for believers, male and female, in the second of the two sermons.
So if you listen to this, we've already talked about having to have 40 guys, 40 males. And now we're talking about a mixed congregation. Did you hear this? And to supplicate for believers, male and female. So this is now a mixed congregation. And most are not. Are the females being kept separate in another room? We know that during the time of Muhammad, in the time when the hadiths were written, they weren't separate. There's a reason why, and we're going to come up to it shortly. And the reason why we know that, it's something to think about. Why do they have to separate the sexes? Is there actually an order to do so in the Sunnah, the hadiths? There's nothing really there in the Quran. We haven't seen anything. Where does this order come from to separate? And even here in the Shariah, there's a reference to them being together for Friday prayers. Start asking questions. If Muslims read this, why aren't they asking the questions? Why do we have separate areas? I mean, that would be, if I was a female reading this and I was a Muslim, I'd like to know, okay, why aren't we together if we're reading about Friday prayers and they're together? It makes you wonder. And again, this is another interesting part is they actually refer to two sermons. They have to say these things in this order. When I talk to Muslims about this, they think of it as a singular sermon. So you notice it says the sermon, and the reference here, both in English and in Arabic, is pretty much a reference to two sermons. The Arabic refers to one, but again, the description, okay, actually in Arabic, you'll see it says two sermons. Over on the left, you'll see it's talking about two sermons. So again, I think it's interesting that they're referring to two sermons. What's in this sermon? They give praise to the person they believe is God. Okay. Prayers be upon the messenger of Allah. I have a problem. Are Muslims okay with praying for the dead? And I'm not aware of that. Prayers being upon the messenger of Allah. Well, he's dead, right? Why are you praying upon him? I mean, do you pray for dead people? And most Muslims will tell you no, they don't pray for dead people. But it says prayers be upon the messenger of Allah, and he's dead, right? I mean, if he's not dead, are you making him the partner of Allah? Oh. Well, so why? I mean, these are questions that should be asked. And then it goes on. And the commandment to fear God. This must be done with fearing God is, or they would say fear Allah. Allah is only saying in the Quran to fear him, so that's nothing unusual. The fourth is the reading of the verse that they're going to read and understand. Okay, that's the sermon. The fifth is a supplication for the believing people and believing women. So again, this is the mixed congregation. It's in there in the English and it's there in the Arabic. Kind of surprising. All right, let's go on. Okay. Let's see. Sharon, can you read this part? And we'll read down to where it's read down to the end of the third paragraph.
Do you want me to start with the N? That sounds like the previous one.
Yeah, okay, so let me go back. And to supplicate the believers, male and female, in the second of the two sermons, if you could start there.
Okay, which must be for their hereafter as supplications for this world alone do not fulfill the integral. The following sermon.
Well, hold on a second. Let's think about that one.
It doesn't
And to
make,
supplicate for the believers, male and female, in the second of the two sermons, all right, which must be for the hereafter. So are we praying for the dead now?
that sounds like it. The hereafter is usually,
Are we praying for when they die, or are we praying for? I mean, it says you're praying here for the believing men and women. So we're praying for after they're gone. Okay, we pray that you make it to heaven. We pray that you don't spend a long time in hell, because that's where the Quran says all the Muslims are going. Oh, this is confusing. You have to sit there.
I thought there was an exception to that. If they're a shaheed or martyr, or if they get named as one of the 70 of that.
Yeah. Well, you get your. Yeah, that's so. If you get one of those 70 virgins that get given away, and sorry, I just did that. If you get one of those 70 virgins, it doesn't say go there immediately. So you might be in hell, and they give you a houri, which looks really gross. I mean, black-eyed, translucent skin where you can see its bones. I mean, that's pretty horrible to think about. Yeah, it sounds like a skeletal, like you're making out with a demonic creature. Oof. And you're giving it to women? It's supposed to be a female. Okay. Yeah. Things you're not supposed to. Okay. Start asking questions. This is how the women get to their concept of heaven, which is a garden. Ugh. All right. Let's look at the parenthesis and that second paragraph. And is a note, by the way. Okay.
The following sermon added here by the translator from the commentary at M2 has been related by two chains of transmission, one ascribing it to Ibn Masud,
yeah,
and the other through him to the prophet. Praise is truly Allah's. We praise him, seek his help, and ask his forgiveness. We seek refuge in Allah from the evils of ourselves and our bad actions. Whomever Allah guides, none can lead astray, and whomever he leads astray has no one to guide him. I testify that there is no God but Allah alone, without any partner, and that Muhammad is his slave and messenger. Allah bless him and give him peace, with his folk and companions. O you who believe, fear Allah as he should be feared, and do not die other than as Muslims. O people, fear your Lord who created you from one soul and created its mate from it, and spread forth from them many men and women.
So let's go back up here. You're praising Allah. You're seeking his help. You're seeking his forgiveness. You seek refuge in Allah from the evils of yourself, okay? And our bad actions. Over on the right, it says the evil of ourselves and from the evil of our deeds. I don't know why they had to put the word bad instead of evil. Maybe there's a person who translated scared that somebody might be saying they're doing evil things. I don't know. We'll keep going on. This guide. I want you to think about this. Please tell me who guides people astray. It says he leads astray. On the left, it says he leads astray, has no one to guide him. Allah is the one who's leading people astray. That's what it's saying here. Allah leads people astray. Does that sound like God, or does that sound like Satan?
Satan.
Yes. And it's here in Shariah. The God who leads people astray is Satan. That would make him Lord of the worlds, wouldn't it? Oh.
It's over 60 or 70 times in the Quran, that title, Lord of the World.
Yeah. I think it's a plural, Lord of the Worlds. And that would make, I mean, that's that title is reserved for Satan. Keep saying, I mean, again, Muslims don't realize this. They are worshiping the God that is called Satan. This is scary, scary stuff. And here it is. And I mean, this is why I say reading Shariah, I wish we're going through it slowly. Again, if we get Muslims to do this, this could be cool. All right, I'm going to go on to this next page. And I do want to read this piece, the translation that came from the other side. It continued, so I'm going to go back here. Okay, oh, you who have believed, fear Allah. He should be feared, and do not die except you have submitted. O people, fear your Lord, who created you from a single soul and created from it its mate. By the way, Allah has a soul. That's what it says in the Quran. So, if Allah has a soul, according to this, he's created. I mean, another thing to think about. Notice they don't tell you that. All right. Can you finish that up, Sharon, please?
And be mindful of your duty to Allah, by whom you ask of one another, and to the wombs that bore you. For verily, Allah is vigilant over you. Quran 4, verse 1. This sermon fulfills conditions A, B, C, and D above. A, the rest of the sermon may be in any language, and after sitting briefly, one rises and says, Alhamdulillah. The blessings on the Prophet enjoins the people to fear Allah and must add a supplication for the Muslims, such as saying, "Oh Allah, forgive the believers." And
this is this. Okay, notice this "and" here in the front. That's just a repetition of what's up here. It's just a repetition. It's a note, but it's, again, that stuff's not there. There's nothing there. There's no Arabic with this. And to me, this, all right, we are, okay, so we're here. The joy of pushing buttons accidentally. Sorry about that. Again, looking at these things, looking at the way they're translating, why is there such a need to hide things from us? Why not just simply translate it correctly? Why hide these things? And that just makes me think. Let's see. Darcy, can you read 18.10 for us, please?
Sure. The conditions of the two sermons are A, of the speaker being in a state of purity from minor and major ritual impurity and from filth. That is, B, that his nakedness be clothed. C, that the two sermons occur during the noon's prayer time before performing the two rakas of the Friday prayer. D, that the speaker be standing during them, if able. E, that he sit down between the two. F, and that his voice be loud enough for the 40 required participants to hear the sermon's integrals.
So if he's a quiet guy, he's not allowed to talk. So he can't have the position of giving a sermon. Interesting point. Okay, I'd say, yeah, if you're going to talk quietly, yeah, you probably shouldn't be doing a sermon. That's like you get a teacher. I mean, you may have had this. You get a teacher and they talk like this. They talk so quietly you can barely hear them. No, most teachers come in, they have what they call a teacher voice, and they project. Some pastors are good enough. They don't really need a microphone. George Whitefield was here in the United States, in Boston, preaching. And Benjamin Franklin heard him. And he thought he could be heard. I think it was 50,000 people, just the way he projected his voice. I mean, that's a booming voice. I might be wrong on that figure. I can't remember the last time I actually looked at that, but it's some amazing amount of people that he thought that he could reach. By the way, it does say nakedness on the left, doesn't it? Darcy, you read about nakedness, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look on the right. Do you see the word nakedness anywhere over there? We have a condition for purity, occur at noon before the prayer, standing. We have sitting. We have raising the voice, but no nakedness. Why do you think that is? Again, they didn't put it in the Arabic, so why are they putting it in the English? Maybe they don't want a naked guy getting up because they don't need to read Arabic. They don't want to. Yeah, they don't want a naked. They want a naked guy getting up and saying, "Okay." They figure people who don't know Arabic might just go naked. Oh, I mean, your prayer is invalidated if you appear. Wait, no, I know why. You're allowed to pray naked.
Yeah, I think they have the nudist colonies over there, and they don't know.
So you have to be clothed if you are, if you're giving the sermon. Okay, but as we said earlier, you think about this. They said you can, in Shariah, it says you can pray naked if you don't have any clothes. But you're not supposed to, but only if you don't have any clothes and nobody can loan them to you. Or you can't take them because you feel like you'll owe them. Really, if you borrow someone's clothes, are you not going to owe them? Some of these things. Okay. So they can just come naked. But your guy who's... And remember, this is not in the Arabic. So they're lying to us, so you can be naked and you can give a sermon for Friday prayers. Oh boy. Why was that important? I mean, does it really need to be said? Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and this is Mo complained about an effeminate man leading the prayer. And we're going to get into that. And we kind of did that when we talked about silk, gold, and silver. And they keep talking about effeminate men. Well, that might be because they keep, in the Quran, it talks about some things that are pretty nasty. And the Hadiths record Muhammad having some very interesting relationships that are not with women. Oh, it's the Hadiths that record it. Think about that. We don't have to do any work to get that in. Hey, Rad, glad to have you back. We're talking about, I don't know if you caught it earlier, we were talking about naked speakers in Islam. All right, going on.
Yeah, I came in on that naked praying naked.
Yeah.
That just adds a whole new twist to the whole Islam thing. That I mean,
so you could have a naked
ahead,
congregation, and you could have a naked guy preaching to, giving a sermon to the naked people praying.
wow, yeah, that's religious piety right there.
Oh, well, I mean, they told us in English that you got to be clothed, but in Arabic, there's nothing there about being clothed.
Oh, really? Interesting. Well, wait, do the women still have to be hijabed? I mean, I'm just
There's
saying.
nothing here. Well, if the women are naked and the men are naked. Oh my gosh. All right. Keep thinking this way. It sounds horrible, but you'll start to, yeah. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Houston Euler says, you said they can pray naked and that men and women were originally allowed to pray together. This wouldn't go. Yes, that's true. Andrew Martin said, in our opinion, one should not offer the salat. Oh, Al-Zuri said, in our opinion, one should not offer the prayer behind an effeminate person unless there is no alternative. Yes, that's in there. And you know what? I'll agree with him on that. I'm not going to go to a church where there's a guy pretending to be a female with his voice or his personality or whatever. I'm going to have a hard time with that because that doesn't agree with Romans 1. Okay, that's against Romans 1. Oh, boy. I can't repeat that one, John. Oh my gosh. Keep thinking that way, John. You're gonna hear. We're gonna keep going. Yeah, let's keep going. This is getting good. All right. All right. We're up to F18.11. Red, are you home yet? Oh, I'm guessing he might be talking. He forgot he mute. No, yeah, you muted yourself, Red. We can't hear you.
No, I'm still out. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So Houston asked this question: which are the other qualifications of an imam besides having a loud, non-effeminate voice? The only other qualification is that he knows Surah 1, Al-Fatiha, and then he knows Shariah. That's it. You don't actually have to know the Quran. You don't have to know who Muhammad is much of all. You don't have to have, there's no other requirements. You have to know Shariah. So you can know how prayer is invalidated. Yeah. Yeah, start thinking about this. All right. Sharon, you just read Darcy's turn. We're going to go right down to, read all the way down to 3.
Okay. The sunnahs of the sermon include that the speaker stand in a pulpit or high place, and that it be to the right of the prayer niche, and that the speaker stand on the right side of the pulpit. That he say, Assalamu alaikum, whatever, to those present when he enters the mosque, and again when he ascends the pulpit and reaches his seat there. That he sit until the muezzin has finished,
Yeah.
right? And the second call to prayer, the Adnan, that when speaking, he lean on us. Are you kidding me?
You know, I found this interesting.
Lean on a sword.
Yeah, read that whole, read all the way down, and we'll come back to that. That is, yeah.
Lean on a sword, bow, or stick, which is in his left hand. It is desirable for him to put his other hand on the pulpit. If he does not have a sword or the like, he keeps his hands still by placing the right upon the left or dropping them to his sides. He does not move them or fidget with one, as the aim is stillness and humility, and that he face the group during both sermons, and turn not to the right nor to the left during them, for it is a reprehensible innovation. It is desirable for the listeners to face the speaker.
Well, the only thing here that makes sense to me is the person is supposed to face the audience, and the audience is supposed to face him. That makes sense. What's the purpose in him leaning on a sword, a stick, or what was it? So we had sword, we had stick, and we had bow. But the sword and bow are weapons. Why do you need this to give a sermon? A stick could be used as a weapon. I mean, it could be like a staff. Think about that. Why do you need these things? Are you planning on standing up too long? I mean, this stuff you just got to sit there and go. I even checked in the Arabic here. If you look on the right, it says, and it is relied upon, a sword, a bow, or a limb, and he occupies his left hand with that, and it is desirable for him to occupy his other hand by placing it on the pulpit. What are they afraid he's going to do with his hands? I mean, be expressive? Maybe. He's not going to talk with his hands like Italians or whoever. I mean, really, he needs a place to put his hands, on a sword, on the pulpit. He has to stand to the right of it. That defeats the purpose of the pulpit. I'm now understanding why when I look at the videos of Muslims giving sermons, they're usually to the side. Okay. It just some of this stuff should just make you think. Now, here's the thing that Muhammad or whoever wrote this didn't think about. When you are preaching, you are, if we look at this, because they give a direction, and this is why we know Allah's not involved here. All right, this creation that's supposed to be Allah's law doesn't know the difference between stage left and stage right, or, so the audience viewing you, are you in the audience's point of view in stage left or stage right, or are you in the imam or who this person giving the sermon, is he on his left or right, or the people facing him, their left or right? Does it make a difference? Well, according to this, it makes a difference. So how do you know? Yeah, and this is interesting. Yeah, Andrew Martin said, not sure why a spear or lance is forbidden unless they're too big. Yeah. Some of these things you just, like, yeah, I mean, what's the deal here? I mean, some of these things just kind of weird. All right, we're going to keep going. Kind of mind-numbing. All right. We're up to the description of the Friday prayer. And we're back to Sharon.
The Friday prayer consists of 2 rakas. It is sunnah for the imam to recite al-Jummahs, or al-Jummah, whatever that is. Quran 62. In the first rakah, meaning the entire surah, the sunnah being to make the sermon brief and the rakas long. Though wisdom must be used in deciding how much those present will accept. And munafiqin, Quran 63, in the second rakah. Following the sunnah from a hadith supported. I'm sorry, I'm screwing up.
Reported. It's shrunk. That I don't know why it did that, but
following
it's copied that way.
From a hadith reported by Muslim, who also reported that the Prophet sometimes recited Quran 87 in the first rakah of the Friday prayer and Quran 88 in the second. I'm sorry, those words I haven't.
Well, I have difficulty with them, so I'm never going to complain. So I don't necessarily know how to pronounce them either. When I look at these, if you look at these passages that they're talking about, they are very, very, very short. In general, I mean, we're talking about the end of the Quran towards the end. As you go down, things are we're talking about Quran 87, 88. Let's just pull it down. I'll show you how many verses we're talking about. 87, okay. And there's no reason why they couldn't have just said this stuff rather than just, okay, they could have said how many, okay, this is Quran 87. Okay, look how big it is. It's a whole 19 ayahs or verses, and you could repeat this. This is less than a paragraph, okay? It's just slightly shorter, slightly longer than Surah 1. All right, which is, again, not part of the Quran according to Muhammad's companions. Things you have to sit there and go, oh. Let's look at the 88th chapter. Oh, okay. How many do we have here? Oh, there's 26. Is it really much longer? It might be a couple of lines longer. But these are really short. And why do they get prayed? Because they're short. Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. You pray these things because they're short, not because it's the right thing to do. You pray them because it's short. And you can't think your own thoughts. You have to pray. The only way you're allowed to pray is by repeating stuff that you're supposed to learn in Arabic. But again, all right, I'm not sure which one you are, Red, but you're here twice.
Yeah, I went to a dead zone, so this is me, so you tell me.
All right. Okay. We're back to Darcy, F18.13.
Okay. A latecomer who joins the group prayer in time to bow and remain motionless a moment therein while the imam is still bowing in the second rak'ah is legally considered to have attended the Friday prayer, though such a person must rise after the imam is finished with salams to pray the rak'ah he missed. If the latecomer joins the group after this point, he has missed the Friday prayer obligatorily, intends performing the Friday prayer anyway, and follows the imam in case the imam has omitted an integral and has to repeat a rak'ah, in which event the newcomer will have attended the Friday prayer.
So wait a minute. If you come later, you get all the benefits. Why not come later? I mean, that's what they said, right? You come later, you don't have to do that, but you get counted. Your prayer gets counted. And this is the other part that we laughed about before. If you come late, that's a benefit. Why come on time? When I read this stuff, it makes me wonder why. I mean, I don't know that Muslims have a problem with it. Actually, the one that I see every day in general, he could. I mean, I see him on time most days. So I look at. I don't understand if this is how you treat prayer. You can come late all the time. Why would you show up on time? There's no real benefit. There's a benefit if you don't show up on time. You don't have to do some of this stuff. I mean,
Okay,
this is interesting. This is interesting. Houston said they probably had to prescribe the short ones to talking about the short surahs to defend against imams wanting to show their piety by selecting Surah 2 with its 300 verses. That could be okay. Yeah, that's for we were talking about the short verses. Yeah. Can you imagine reading? Yeah. And by the way, if you understand, if you look at the Tasfirs, Surah 2 was longer. Yes. And there's another one that's supposed to be just as long, if not longer. Oh, think about that. Because you don't have the entire thing. The only one that has that is this tablet in the garden or wherever. Yeah, that's supposed to be uncorrupted. All right, we're going on. Hopefully, we're going to get near this.
What about that last sentence? But if this does not happen, when the imam finishes with salams, latecomer rises and completes his prayer as a noon prayer, not Friday.
This is where this is the deal where, so you get special credit with their God Allah, if you do the Jummah prayer, and if you don't do the Jummah prayer, you got to do the noon prayer. Okay, so you don't get credit. This is the thing that kills me. Special credit for doing Friday prayer, but you don't get special credit when you do the noon prayer on Fridays. If you do the Jummah prayer, you don't do the noon prayer because it invalidates your ability to do the noon prayer. So that would be praying, then praying again. Lots of questions. Yeah. Think about this. Just, yeah. Legally considered to have attended. Yeah. Really, is there someone there taking attendance? Is there someone there? Ooh, your person validated. Minus. Ooh, F. We can't give you. Okay. You were naked. I could see your hand. I could see beyond the slits in your eyes. Someone has a half T-shirt or a torn T-shirt, or you start asking these questions. What do they mean by naked? Oh, naked. Okay, it said you could pray naked if you didn't have any clothing. Yeah. All right. Can you remind? Be traded for these credits. There we go. This is interesting question too. Can you what could be traded for these credits? Sins forgiven at a smaller scale than kissing the black stone? We don't know what these credits earn you. We do know that there is special credit for someone who does the Friday prayers. We don't know how much value they have. They might have negative value. Yeah, there's nothing telling us. That's a good question. Hey, Damian, thanks for joining us. All right, let's go on. Some of these things you just got to sit there and go like, yeah, why would you show up on time if you get benefits from, if you get legally considered to attend and you showed up late? That's not a bad deal. All right, I think we just did that one. Okay. We're on 18.14. And back to Sharon.
Recommended measures for those attending the Friday prayer. It is recommended to perform a purification.
Okay, so you're saying this the way I normally do. By the way, don't feel so bad. This one gets my tongue tied every time. Let's see, can you hear me tied with it? Purificatory.
Okay, purificatory bath or ghusl. And offensive not to before going to the Friday prayer, though it may be performed any time after dawn. If one is unable to bathe, one may perform the dry ablution. It is also recommended to clean the teeth with a tooth stick, trim the nails, remove bodily hair, eliminate offensive odors, wear perfume, and one's finest clothes, white being the best, and for the imam to dress better than anyone else. Because of the time taken by these measures, it is offensive to visit others on Friday morning.
Yeah, they don't want you visiting anybody else because then you might have to change your clothes. You might
Wait, it's offensive to what? It's offensive to what? I didn't hear that.
To visit others before you go to the mosque.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, start thinking about that. Yes, it's the clean dirt, the good dirt, the dirt that doesn't have dung in it. What about the ants' dung? What about the spider's dung? Okay. No camel dung. Okay, no camel dung. No, yeah. It's good dirt. Wash the woman off you. Ugh. Yeah, I mean, you got to sit here. If you look at this, okay, they're saying you have to trim your nails, you have to trim your body hair. Okay, offensive odors. Please take a shower. Please bathe. Yeah, nobody wants to sit next to this. Nobody wants to be that close to somebody and have to smell their body odor. I'm all for that one. Please take a bath. The idea that the imam has to dress better than anyone else. Are you paying him more than anyone else? Where he can buy those $300 suits, or he can buy those $1,000 suits, or $5,000. Let him go buy designer clothes. Oh, he's spending $10,000 a suit. Okay, you're giving them the money to do it. Why not?
Are they supposed to call him ahead of time to ask, what he's wearing so they don't overpower his clothes with theirs?
That's a good question.
Which
in general,
means
the imam wears white, and they have just said in here. This is another interesting point. They said in here, white's the best. It says white being the best, but the one who's supposed to be wearing white that will help him stand out is the imam. So are they telling everyone to wear white? And the answer is no. The one who's the best is wearing the white, and that's generally the imam. I guess that's what they're saying. Are they saying white is better than black? Are they being racist here? This is the guy who sold 2 black slaves to buy 1 white slave. Yeah, I don't know, but it's something to think about. I like your question, Darcy. What are they supposed to call him? I mean, check. What are you wearing today? I've got a white. Oh, wait. Okay. Shh, don't tell anybody I'm wearing white silk shirt. But you're not supposed to wear silk. You're a guy. Yeah. things you get in the Shariah. Okay. We're going on. Okay. Sharon, you just read, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We're up to
Yeah.
Darcy. Here we go. It's recommended.
It's recommended to arrive early, which is recommended for everyone besides the imam, so as to take a seat and wait for the prayer. The best time being from dawn on. To come on foot in tranquility, dignity, and not to ride to the mosque unless there is an excuse, such as old age, weakness, or being so far from the mosque that the fatigue of walking would obviate one's humility and presence of mind in the prayer. To sit near the imam and to invoke Allah, both on the way and at the mosque before the sermon, and to recite the Quran and invoke blessings on the Prophet.
So, the couple things that got me here. Okay, arriving early. Okay, that makes sense. You should always arrive. I'm not saying I'm perfectly on time all the time.
You're frozen, Paul. Uh-oh, Paul's frozen.
Yeah,
He said he's not always on time. I used to be in the Marine Corps. I'm always early. Hurry up and wait.
I try to get there early and help out when I can.
Paul.
I'm the guy who has to be.
Paul, you're frozen again.
All right, this is crazy.
You froze quite a while there.
Yeah, I know. What's crazy is StreamYard tells everybody tells itself I'm using Wi-Fi, and I'm not. I'm directly hooked into Ethernet, and it's only when I use this program. It doesn't make sense to me. So I'm just trying to figure that part out. Let me call on my. It doesn't make any sense. So here's the thing that gets me. Yes, arriving early is important. And again, I'm going to say I'm one of those guys who has to arrive early or on time. I can't handle being late. That's just me. Some people are really good at arriving late. I just can't do it. Pay attention to this second one. To come on foot. So one of the problems we have that happens around mosques, Muslims have to buy the properties around a mosque. Why? Because they're supposed to walk to the mosque. Now, I started thinking about this when I read this. And, I've heard about the Muslims have to buy the properties around the mosque. Heard that repeatedly. Now I see the Sharia justification for it. They're not supposed to be driving to the mosque. Oh. So the closer to the mosque, the better. Something to think about. So they're saying you need to buy everything in this area, it all has to be owned by the Muslims. Are you catching this? That's kind of what they're implying. So the area becomes Islamic and Sharia can be enforced.
Maybe that's why they see the mosque as a symbol of conquest of the land.
Yes, it's a good point. Yeah, it is a good point. I mean, this is something to think about. I mean, this actually justifies the purchasing of properties around the mosque. I didn't expect that. I mean, when I started looking at this stuff, it made me think, okay, but I didn't expect to find that. Going through this, it just made me surprised. I didn't expect to find. Like I said, I didn't expect to find it. Sitting near the imam, I get that. I mean, you want to be closer to the guy who's supposed to be leading things. It makes life easier. It's going to get interesting next. What happens to those people who don't care if they sit next to the imam and they're interested in sitting in a certain spot so they can see other things than the imam. This is going to be funny. All right. Well, it's going to be disgusting. Not necessarily funny. All right. F 18.15. Who's up now? I'm losing track. Sharon, is it Sharon or Darcy? I'm sorry.
I lost track.
Who read the last one? All right.
Which one is it?
That was Darcy, so I think it's you, Sharon.
Yeah.
Okay. Which one? F8 1815?
Yeah.
Okay.
Read all the way down.
Okay. It is offensive for anyone but the imam when there is no need to step over people to reach a place among them, unless one sees a vacant spot that cannot be reached otherwise. It is unlawful to make someone sitting in the mosque rise and then sit in his place, though if someone voluntarily rises, it is permissible.
Okay, hold on just a second here. So, you ever go to a church and you got a spot and you sit down and someone there's space next to you, so you let somebody come in and take that spot. They're like, oh, you can't take them. Again, they're on the ground, they're praying. Yeah, it would be considered kind of rude. I can agree with this. It makes sense to me. If you're on the ground and praying, you don't want to be stepping near people's faces. You'd be worried about tripping, and if you trip and you invalidate a whole bunch of other people's prayers, you get everybody ticked off at you. No, I can agree with the concept. All right, let's read F 18.16, and it's going to get kind of nasty.
It is offensive to give another person one's place in the front row, in closeness to the imam, or to put others ahead of oneself in performing any act of worship, as is proved by the rigorously authenticated hadith, Sahih hadith. People keep staying behind until Allah keeps them behind. As for Allah's saying, preferring others to themselves, though poverty be their lot. Quran 59:9.
All right. And when I was just talking to Usama because there was a translation problem with F 18.15. And the Google Translate was actually what I would say is gobbledygook for this. And when I talked to Usama, he says, no, it's exactly what it says on the left. This one was exactly, it says all of what it said on the left is what it said. I'm taking his word for it. He was giving me pretty much word for word. I can't put it all up like I can't read the Arabic, so I'm going to have to trust. F 18.16. I want you to think about this. It's hated that some will be in the front line when they pray and with everyone near, they'll be against everything that's not mentioned. And they proved that with the correct hadith, and still some people will delay them. Okay. Usama said that this has to do with men purposely arising late for prayer to be behind the men that came late so they can look at the females' butts that are in front of them. If you remember your teenage years, guys, and you're sitting there looking at the girls, you wouldn't have minded sitting in those places. I'm picking on the teenage years. Yeah, you're thinking like that. You get that teenage mindset. Oh, these guys have that mindset when they're 60, 70, 80, and we call them dirty old men. Okay. It gets better. Quran 15:24 says, and indeed we know who among you comes before, and indeed we know who will come later. Al-Qurtubi's interpretation of this is all about guys coming late to look at a certain girl's behind. Oh. Yeah. It's nice to know that the Quran is just as perverted as we think it is, according to Islamic scholars. One of the best of them, Al-Qurtubi. Oh, think about that. Yeah, come late to prayer so you can look at the girls, but don't worry about that your prayer's not invalidated because you got lust in your heart. Wait. Did they say if you had lust in your heart, prayer's invalidated? What's your intention in the prayer? Are you going to have intention in your prayer? I mean, honest intention in your prayer to worship or to pray to your Allah when you're thinking about that butt behind that's right in front of you? Yeah. Here we go. Nicodemus is right on target. I think the Muslim mistook Paul saying it's better to marry than to burn. For them, muta is the same as marrying. Allegedly. All right. Here we go. All right. I mean, yeah. F18. Oh, yeah, we're getting there. All right. We're going to go on to the next one. All right. We're going to finish this one. All right. I'll do this. It refers to things that relate to the physical self, such as feeding Okay. Okay. F16, and it goes on. It refers to things that relate to the physical self, such as feeding a hungry person, blah, 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 when no one needs the food. In case, you know, the big problem I had here, I got to come back to it. Where was it? I saw, I'm going to just come back to this piece here. Quran 59:9, and I can't highlight it because it's a picture. My problem with this passage is it's very selfish. And what do I mean by that? It's preferring yourself to others. That's not how Christianity, Judaism, and I would say most other faith structures work. The idea is that you treat others better than yourself. And even in this passage that has to do with lust, they're even talking about themselves. A person who has lust is always thinking about himself. Doesn't need to be encouraged that way. And that's what this is doing. I just have a problem with that one. All right. Let's go on. All right. And I'm just going to skip. Okay. F18.17. I think it's Darcy's turn. Yes.
Now, it is offensive, though not unlawful, for someone sitting in the mosque to speak or to rise and give the prayer while the imam is giving the sermon. The more reliable position is that prayer is unlawful during the sermon for the person already sitting in the mosque as opposed to someone who has just arrived. As next discussed, a newcomer who arrives when the imam is speaking or seated on the pulpit should pray 2 brief rakas to greet the mosque if the prayer is being held in a mosque. If held opposed to someone who has just arrived, as next discussed, a newcomer who arrives when the imam is speaking or seated on the pulpit should pray 2 brief rakas to greet the mosque if the prayer is being held in a mosque. If held elsewhere, one should intend them as the 2 rakas that are sunnah before the Friday prayer. Though if one has already prayed these at home, one should simply sit down without praying. It is offensive for a latecomer to simply omit the 2 rakas of greeting the mosque, though if one enters the mosque at the end of the imam's sermon and believes that praying them will prevent one's participating in the opening Allahu Akbar with the group, then one should remain standing until they rise and incorporate one's greeting the mosque into the obligatory prayer.
So we have a problem. I mean, this partially makes sense. You don't want somebody, because they have to talk out loud. There's nothing saying they have to, but you see this. They'll say these words out loud. They'll repeat these. Again, they're repeating the Quran out loud. And if you're doing this, wouldn't that disturb someone whose intention is to speak at that moment, the guy that you're paying to do the public speaking? I just think it's a statement to say don't be rude. Originally, that's what we've got here. Now we have the latecomer coming in. They're saying you don't interrupt you don't come in and start praying, but at the same time they're telling him to do it. So this is contradictory. It says, do it, don't do it, do it, don't do it. If you could figure this part out, it says, again, the guy who comes late has to do these rakas. But they just said, don't pray while he's doing the sermon. This is like you're supposed to, but you're not supposed to, but you're supposed to, but you're not supposed to. And if you're not copying the imam, your prayer is invalidated. Oh, so why are you there? This is just bad. It doesn't make sense. All right, now we're up to what John Wilson was. We're up to F18, 18.18. And Sharon, if you could read that one, please.
It is recommended to recite Al-Kaf, Quran 18, and invoke blessings on the Prophet on the night before Friday and during its day.
Okay. This is the part that kind of made me laugh. He mourns the cave in prayer. Again, it's a gobbledygook translation. Again, are we praying for the dead guy?
Yeah.
Oh, again, another thing here. Where in the Quran is Muhammad called a prophet? I just don't see it. I know Usama insists the seal has to do with him being a prophet, and being the social studies teacher, I think about the historical time period and what a seal meant back then, and I don't see it. So that's where he and I differ. But I just don't see any place in the Quran that Muhammad is called a prophet. And why would you pray for a dead guy? Invoke blessings on a dead guy. I don't get that. I mean, does anybody else get it?
No. But are you talking about this? I'm sorry, I finally got back online. But just rejoining, obviously.
Well, are you talking? It says you have to invoke blessings on the prophet.
Oh yeah, that makes dude. He is their intercessor. He is basically their god. They worship him.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean they have blasphemy laws. Again, if you insult him, blasphemy is for a deity. You blaspheme against a deity. But I came in. You were mentioning something about the seal. You talking about Muhammad's seal of the prophethood? That he's the seal of the prophet. He's got a hairy mole. He's got a hairy mole. Seriously, they say that's the seal of the prophet. A hairy mole. And it's like, yeah, okay, on his back. Looks like an apple.
Well, we only know it's a hairy mole if we read the hadiths, correct?
Correct, yeah.
But we don't know it's a hairy mole. Yeah, we don't know that.
Trinity. There's Islam's Trinity right there.
Yeah, the hairy mole. Oh my God!
You got Muhammad. You got the Rock. I swear, dude, whoever designed that thing really had a perverted mind. Just saying. Yes. But yeah. Anyway, and you got I'm sorry. This is, as Anthony Rogers said in one of his streams a couple weeks ago, or when he was preaching somewhere, and he said Islam, honestly, you can say someone's demon possessed or has an encounter with a demon. He said this Muhammad is the most clearly he had interaction with a demon.
So this is what I'm getting at, and Houston's saying what I'm saying. A seal during this time period, the word seal actually meant an approval, and they actually have a passage in the beginning of the Quran. I think it was in Surah 2 or one of the first surahs, where they're talking about the job of a messenger versus the job of a prophet. The prophet comes along, he gives a prophecy. The messenger comes along and says, yeah, that's a good prophecy. That's what the messenger is supposed to do. Yes, it's real. And they give the approval. They authenticate, which is what Houston's saying here. So throughout the Quran, the only 4 times that he's mentioned, and it's not his real name, by the way. Muhammad is not his real name. It's his title. It just means praised one. All right. And it says that, and he's just there to authenticate stuff. Okay, as a messenger, that's what he's supposed to do. It doesn't any place say he's a prophet. I mean, if the hairy mole is a seal, that's God's stamp of, their God's stamp of approval on Muhammad is a hairy mole. Well, it kind of makes you wonder what what Muhammad's God is, if that's what they're considering a stamp of approval. Uh, Kind of gross if you ask me. But again, they are praying for a dead dude. Uh, I think we need to be asking this question. And as I went over this, I'm like, maybe we should be asking Muslims, do you invoke blessings on the Prophet? Just ask them that. And then ask them if it's normal to pray for dead people in Islam. And listen to their responses. Are you allowed to pray for dead people? Really, the answer is no. So let's understand this. The only reason you don't pray for your God, right? Because God's supposed to be able to bless you. Why would you pray for a dead person? Why would you pray for your God? Wait a minute. Here's the other part. If the guy is dead, you don't pray for him. Let's say he's alive. Okay, so you say Prophet Muhammad's alive. Are you now calling him Allah's partner? Oh. Are you committing an act of shirk by praying for him because you're now saying he's alive? I mean, these are questions we need to ask. This is that critical thinking component. Really, you could just read over this and be done with it quickly. But if you don't ask these questions, you don't ask the things that make you go, what's going on here? Andrew Martin, I think one of the best books I've actually read on Muhammad is The World's Most Notorious Prophet. And I recommend that book. So I agree with you, Andrew. You'll see that having been mentioned. He says he agrees with Red that Mo was probably demon possessed. I am not disagreeing. There are things you don't have most people don't run outside when it rains naked. And that's one of the things Muhammad does. And I think
I
all
mean,
these naked statements might be about him because he's the one running outside naked.
and all the interactions, it's a painful interaction. It's a scary interaction. It
Mm-hmm.
is he wants to commit suicide after these interactions.
Yes.
When people encountered the angel of the Lord, the pre-incarnate Jesus Christ, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. No, there was trembling, they bowed down, but there's always a message of peace. No, do not be
Yes.
afraid.
I mean,
Okay?
and
Okay.
afterwards, here's the thing: after being in the presence of God, after
Oh,
seeing the face of God, Moses, what happens? His face becomes bright.
and it
All
becomes
right.
radiant transfiguration, yeah. And
Yeah. I
I
mean,
love that. I
this
love
is
the 70
exciting.
elders. The 70 elders are walking up with them. Yes, we're going to see this God. And you hear God speaking from the thick black smoke and the terrible voice. You're like, no, Moses, you go on. We'll stay down here.
that that part I get and I don't get. I mean, this God got you out of slavery for hundreds of years, and he did that for you, and you lived through it. You could have been killed, and this God opens the sea, and you walk on dry land, and you still don't want to get as personal as you can. I mean,
It says
I'll never get
terrible,
that part.
thick black smoke in the terrible voice he spoke from the mountain.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not going to
No,
deny
I mean,
it doesn't sound
yeah.
scary. I'm not going to
Here's the
deny
thing.
that.
Well, here's the thing. They were always also grumbling. Remember, they were always,
Yeah,
and no, I get it. The Jewish Targums, not Targums, the Talmudic Mishnah has it that God levitated the mountain over the camp. Okay, I mean, no, lifted up the mountain and levitated over the camp. Okay, and there was always a threat that he could just take that mountain and just smash it on them, on their heads. Okay, that is that is their portrayal of it, and that is a scary,
yes,
terrible thing. And they still rebelled, and they sacrificed to the golden calf and forced Aaron to strap on their swords and go through the camp backwards and forwards. Yes, terrible day. But anyway, we digress. Let's continue on. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm trying to stick in here. We're almost done. F18.19. Red, you want to read the last one?
Sure. Okay, which one am I going to the left or to the
F
right?
to the left.
To the left. Okay. It is recommended to supplicate. Wait, it is recommended to supplicate Allah much on Fridays. What? Allah
This
much on
doesn't.
Fridays. What is that? Okay, let's read the whole thing because that's not making any sense. It is recommended to supplicate Allah much on Fridays, seeking the moment when prayers are answered. O, colon, in view of the hadith related by Bukhari and Muslims. There is a moment on Friday when the slave shall not ask Allah for anything, save that he will give it to him, which lies between the time of the Imam first sits on the pulpit and when the prayer is finished. Others hold that the moment occurs after the mid-afternoon prayer, Ashura or Asr prayer. What?
So supplicate means to ask for humbly or earnestly, as by praying, or to make a
Oh,
humble
so that's just
request.
probably a typo. It is recommended to supplicate to Allah, or yeah, probably.
No, actually, this is where we get
Supplicate
into it.
Allah much on Fridays.
Okay, so it's recommended to ask for something by praying. Okay, so if you look at the English, I mean that I have on the right, that's the Google Translate part. And many supplications will be made on that day in hope. The hour of response to what the two sheikhs narrated. And like, really? Yeah.
That
I mean,
actually makes more sense.
Yeah.
Than what this English translator did. Like I said, I just think that's a horrible translation because I can see what it's saying, but it's not saying that. It's saying more. Well, it should be more of what it's saying in the Google translation that you supplicate as much to Allah. Okay, seeking the moment when prayers are answered. Okay.
Well, that's why one of the reasons why I'm doing this type of translation. Notice this stuff that the citations are not there. And this is one of those passages where, I mean, if you look at that, that's the total for F8 18.19. That's all of it. And many supplications will be made on that day in hope, the hour of response to what the two sheikhs narrated. So we were talking about Bukhari and Muslim. Okay, always something, again, all this stuff in this parentheses from where it says prayer answered, this is all added. So they add stuff. Who do we know for sure they're talking about Bukhari and Muslim? The person who's telling us in the translation believes he's right. I mean, this is another problem where Islam is not always specific and doesn't, and this guy's trying to compensate for Islam not either knowing or not specifying. He's trying to make up for Islam's shortcomings. Yeah, I've gone through this, and it's just, we've asked some really good questions here. I mean, why do we pray for a dead guy? Why would Muhammad ask for prayers? Again, there's nothing telling us that Muhammad wanted you to pray for him after he's dead. There's nothing in the Quran. There's nothing in the Hadith that say, pray for the dead dude, Muhammad. There's nothing in the Sirahs that say, pray for the dead, the prophet when he's dead. Yeah. I mean, yes, the stuff on the left, Nicodemus, it's a good question. And this is Na'um. I have it here. And where did I put it? And I have it right. I had it right next to me. And I moved it. And I will just pull it up and do that. All right, just a second, and I will show you the translation. And let me just stop sharing for a second, and I'll pull it up. And let's get the right piece here. Here we go. And it's the joy of having too many screens open. Here we go. Reliance the Traveler. I just pull this up to the beginning. And I'll pull it over. And we'll go back. Red, I'm going to mention a name today. And you may say, don't look into this guy's name because you may have already done it. There was a few things that happened this weekend. I have enough time to talk about, but
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let me get this shared. Present, share screen. Here we go. All right. So Reliance of the Traveler. Here's the inside sheet. Edited and translated by Nuhamim Keller. All right. And this is actually called this is the Classical Manual of Islamic Sacred Law. It's referred to as Umdat al-Salik. All right. So this is, I mean, you look at the age, we're talking about 1368. All right. And this is supposed to be what they all pretty much, the majority of them agree on. Yeah. So it's pretty much all four Sunni schools agree on most of this. They will tell you the exceptions to the rule in here. And this is the Sunni schools. Yeah. Why are we talking about the Sunni law versus the Shia law? Because there's far more Sunnis than there are Shias. And that's the reason. Here's the other thing. Most Sunnis agree with almost all things in Shia. I mean, most Sunnis and Shias agree on Shariah. And I'd say 90% of it, if not 95, is a smidgen of difference. That's it. It's very, very little. It's minimal. This is why the Iranians can fund Sunni terrorism. It's why the Sunnis can fund Shia terrorism. And I mean, this is where they really come together. And I'm going through this again slowly because I think we need to ask these important questions. Again, I am tired of going through the F section. I can't wait to be done with it. It feels like we've been dragging our feet for a long time.
How much longer the F do we got?
We have, I think, the end of next week. I'm hoping. Next week or the week after, we will finish. There's only a few pieces. These are specialized prayers. This was the last we're talking about Jummah prayers. And I'm going to try and rush us through. I don't want to spend a lot of time on these next few sections. We have the two Eids we're going to be talking about. And I think there's two other ones. And if I do cut and not cover everything, it's for my purpose of I am tired. Forgive me, I am tired of covering prayer topic. Again, I'm trying to do this and be methodical about it.
Overly complicated to pray to your God.
Yes.
I mean, it's almost like, why bother?
And to me, it says, why commit? It's easier than praying to go commit an act of jihad. Oh. I mean, if your God's willing to invalidate your prayers if you make a mistake, if you fart, I mean, if you do any of these things, and it explained, I mean, I suddenly understand why we have imams like this guy in Texas who really know nothing about the Quran and pretend he does, but he doesn't have to know it. All he has to know is Sharia. My question is, has anybody asked him what he knows about Sharia? If he doesn't know Sharia, he can't be the imam. Because that's the only requirement. He has to know Sharia. He only has to know the first surah. That would explain his... I mean, he doesn't have to know what it means in English. He has to know how to say it. You'll meet people who call themselves... The guy that we met in Ohio, who has no clue about anything Arabic. But he claims to have knowledge. And he won't read the translation. Believe me, things that just go, whoa, what's going on here? But as Usama tells me, that's exactly what you run into all the time. Like, they don't know because they're told not to read it if it's not in Arabic.
Right. What it boils down to is the complete control and fear mongering that Islam is all about.
Yes.
It's just every aspect of every living being. Just
Houston,
why?
I'm going to pick on something Houston said because this is where reading this and going through it slowly and methodically leaves me with the impression again that some Shariah, I think there was like etch-a-sketch type thing going on here. We'll write this and then we'll make an adjustment in the hadith. That's how my thoughts are going. I could be wrong. I'm kind of there. I'm closer to what you're saying. And I think it's easier, actually. I think it's much easier for them to agree on things. It's just an interesting point. Let me tell you what I thought was important, and there's a couple of things. I'm going to share out. Just find out where I put it. I put something someplace special so we could all see it, and I just have to. Yeah, I have to clear off that screen. That's what it is. All right, take that off. I still don't see it. Oh, I got to turn off this other thing. The joy of having too many things up. All right, and I thought I had it here. Yeah. All right. I'm going to share this link. I think everybody here should be sharing this information. So Jerusalem, our Post actually put an article out, and it covers Hamas's excuse, their propaganda. This article, I think everybody should read. This document of Hamas propaganda should be read by everybody to understand the perversions of Hamas and who they say they are versus what's reality. This is all propaganda. None of it should be trusted or believed. Notice it has their stamp on there, their logo, and they call their operation against their October 7th operation the Al-Aqsa flood. Just the pictures here made me mad. There's a section in here that makes me incredibly angry. I'm telling everybody, I said at the beginning of the show, you want to come listen to Usama and myself and Christy Johnson Saturday night at 10 o'clock. We're going to talk about this particular piece of crap by Hamas. Our narrative, Operation Al-Aqsa Flood. I'm telling everybody, come spend some time with us for the beginning of the show. We are going to cover this. We could probably do a great show, cover the entire thing, but we're talking about the fine points. Go through this.
It's time again.
10 o'clock Eastern time. You can find it on my channel or on Usama's channel.
Okay.
Come and catch us because this is
today.
You say it's no. I'm talking Saturday night.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, it's a late night thing. You can watch it the next day, but I'm telling you, you want to listen to this. I was giving Darcy and Sharon a clue as to what we're covering, and this will. I gave them before the show started. I was playing a little bit of it, and it's just mind-numbing. They have this divided into 5 sections. Why did they do what they did? The operation, the events of the operation. By the way, they say they didn't do anything to women, children, and the elderly. You can guess our response to that. Okay. Jerusalem Post wrote a nice response. Yeah. Why did they do it? Well, it says right here, this war has been going on for 105 years. Really? They're saying that they've been occupied for 105 years. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. And Usama covers this better than most.
Wait, so they must be going back to like 19. Yeah, you'd have to go back to 1915 when the British
Um,
took it over from Ottomans.
1917, 1918, somewhere's in there they're
Yeah,
coming back to.
yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, we have a problem here. So you're in the right time zone. It's messed up. Their whole structure, all the statements. Notice the pictures here. They're trying to imply that they are occupied, they are imprisoned. Take a look at this. These are people. I mean, start thinking about this. These pictures made me upset, and you're gonna the one that really makes me angry is at the end. Now, again, they're claiming they only attacked military targets. Okay, you took out a fence that was designed to keep the Israelis safe, and you went and attacked. They didn't attack citizens, according to this propaganda garbage. Okay, wait a minute. Why didn't you go through? Why didn't you go through an area where the Israelis could respond to your terrorist actions? Oh, and why are some of these people? There's no uniforms. Yeah, how do we know who's who? If And that's the other thing with Hamas. People forget that it looks like everybody here is a citizen. Well, that's not true. They are all pretty much. Gaza is pretty much Hamas. All right.
It's funny. I follow this dude on Twitter, who says he's in Gaza. He may be. I don't know. But he works for UNWAR or whatever. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he's showing all these videos and images and clips and stuff like that. And then he's showing all this stuff. He's like, my house that I just built. I'm like, well, how do you build a house in a prison, first of all? And he's showing this other dude, this is a farmer in Gaza. He just completed his house. It's a huge mansion. In other words, this is one of Hamas's people. Okay. And it's,
Yes.
It's not a farmhouse. It's an actual castle, and it's like on beachfront resort property. Okay.
Oh, really?
So
I mean, it sounds like a
really,
prison, right?
yeah. And they're showing all these images of Gaza, life on Gaza. I mean, this is what really angers me about these people. They could have the jewel of the Levant, the jewel of the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
they could
been
have.
there. Israel left a beautiful piece for them when they took their occupation out of Gaza. They took all of the Jews. In fact, the only persons forbidden from being in Gaza are Jews.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so
They
this is
had
the
an
section.
international airport. They had. I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. This section, this fourth section, I can't read it out loud without throwing things. It just makes me angry. If you know anything about the Muslim Brotherhood, if you don't, please pick up my second book. It's called Civilization, Jihad, and the Myth of Modern Islam. There's a section in there about Hamas. It's brief, it's short, but I say read the whole chapter on the history of the Muslim Brotherhood. And you tell me that these guys are peaceful. They're just resistors. They have no violent intentions. You might sound like Obama if you say that, but you'll be absolutely stupid because you're ignoring history. Now, I'm going to show you what really ticked me off about this. The fourth section as a whole made me angry. All right. Fifth section, when you read 4 and you see it's how stupid it is, 5, they don't want to return the hostages. They just want people. This makes me angry. This is their back cover. How is this not a statement of pride in what they did? Oh, we didn't attack citizens.
Well, no, that's their excuse, okay? Because conscription is mandatory. Everybody serves in the Israeli army. If you're 18, you got to do a year. Okay.
Yeah.
So they were off duty. It's like National Guard duty. Okay, you do 2 weeks out of the month, or no, 2 days, 1 weekend out of the month, and 2 weeks out of the year, kind of deal. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So because these kids, these college age students, were at this music festival. Okay. They weren't serving in the military at that time, but because they were actually still active duty, okay, therefore that makes them legitimate targets. Um, no, it's not, because they weren't in uniform and they weren't acting in a military capacity. And there was no war. There was actually a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel
And the
at this
place
time.
that they attacked, the two places that really did destruction, those are places where people were more pacifists. They really didn't
No,
have
I
any
think
weapons.
they were the hippie dippies.
Yes.
That's another thing. I've been listening to like interviews of actually Israeli IDF fighters. Because there's a couple of these podcasts that were going on when I was on my motorcycle trip to Florida. That's what I was listening to, because that's what kept coming up. But these guys are talking like, no, you guys think that Israel's a big gun culture. It's not especially not in that area. In that area, they think the military is going to protect them, and they're hippies. They like to live their happy, peaceful lives. They're actually the ones that go into Gaza and take people out of Gaza for medical support and treatment. And they did this to them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, these people just really, I mean, like I said, dude, third war against Carthage, treat it like Carthage. Boom. That's it. You're done. No more. No.
All right. I'm going to do one more thing. And there is a, let me see if I can pull this up. There was, where did I put it? I have too many things open. I think I have it here. Okay. I'll pull it up from Jihad Watch. There's an article, and I have it actually on my other articles. Here we go. Okay, so I don't know if anybody's aware of what happened in Florida this week. A woman protesting a pro-Hamas event had a passionate debate with a Hamas lover, terrorist supporter, Shadi Abu Samur, who stole her megaphone and then hit her in the face with it. Shadi Abu Samur then showed off his gun. That sounds like a threat with a weapon, doesn't it? That's a crime. Well, Sergeant Karen Dukes of the local police force, said Abu Samur will face charges of robbery and by sudden snatching while armed. Abu Samur's arrest report lists armed possession of controlled substance for possessing marijuana and improper exhibition of firearm or dangerous weapon. Let's put all those things together. That was a threat upon her life, showing that firearm. Improper exhibition of I mean, these guys are too nice. If you look at this guy, so I'm going to say, Brad, you may want to look at this guy. The one stuff I found in open source, this guy's been arrested for.
Say that again.
I'll put his name in the private chat. This is a guy who's dangerous, and he's out of Florida, and through simple, if you do a quick Google search of who this is, you know what, I'll put it in public chat too, but I'm going to put it in private for Red so he can copy it. This guy is dangerous.
What happened with him? What did he do? Oh, no, sorry.
He took a megaphone from a counter pro. So there's Hamas lovers were having their thing in Florida, and they were out supporting terrorism. And this lady came, and she was not supporting terrorism. She was saying, "Hey, this should not be legal," and she's saying it on a megaphone. They had a heated disagreement. He stole her megaphone and beat her in the head with it.
Oh, well, what city and town in Florida was this? Because Florida, although it's mostly red, there are still some lefty areas. If this was because Florida has laws against this, this person can go to prison for a long time. Depending.
I'll put the link in everybody's, so everybody can see the link too. So I'll put that in, and let me pull it up, and I'll throw this link out there. It's in First Coast News, which is Jacksonville.
This person's going to prison for a long time. They ain't gonna play with him in Jacksonville.
Yeah. So, I look at this. His background is he's extremely violent.
Yeah,
And,
they're not going to tolerate this in Jacksonville. I guarantee you. Yeah, let me look up who's
well,
the Jacksonville
if when
DA.
you look at his history, you wonder
Uh-huh.
why he wasn't already, why he wasn't currently locked up. That's my thoughts from reading what I can see with open source. I don't have beyond that. I just don't have those access to those tools. But from what I can see with open source, this guy should not be on the streets. I think the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office should hear from many people around the world that want to defend the people who actually are intelligent, like the young lady who was out saying what she should say. I'm just concerned.
Hold on.
This
See,
guy is
Jackson.
30 years old, and he's just, yeah. And I look at this. You can find his prison records are available to anybody who wants to look, because when you type in his name, you find too much information, and that tells you this man has been in trouble more than once. Be careful. No, I'm not getting an access denied. Did anybody? Okay, maybe the link is not fully going in. Let me check. Let me see if I can put it into a shortener.
Oh
I'm getting it.
no, this Jacksonville district attorney, no. Well, she was elected saying she was going to reform the office, but I'm just doing some now. People are walking out of jail. A man accused of arson and murder walked out of the Jacksonville jail for the first time in 3 years. The new state's attorney, Melissa Nelson, had fired the man's old prosecutor, and now her office admitted the case against him is weak. A woman who had shot her husband as he beat her would say it was Nelson who brought her justice. The old state's attorney had said that he acted in anger, but Nelson disagreed. She dropped all charges. That's why this is a lefty DA. Yeah. Yeah, so this is a total lefty DA. I thought Jacksonville was Republican, but it's not. Yeah, they're screwed. He didn't get no time. What happened? Where's Paul? Can you guys hear me?
His connection acted up.
Okay.
Computer or something.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see. I bet she's a Democrat because it doesn't say. She needs to be removed.
Did Paul freeze again?
Looks that way. Of course, it doesn't say. Must be a Democrat because they don't like to put D when you search them. No, Melissa Nelson, Republican Party, is a Florida 4th Judicial Circuit State Attorney. She's Republican. She assumed office in 2017. Huh.
There's some bad Republicans out there too. I mean, look at the one in Kerry Lake is taken to court.
You know, this is true. Yeah. Huh. All right. I'm going to have to look into her. This is interesting. Because I thought Jacksonville was Matt Gates' district, but I could be wrong. I mean, I used to be a fan of Matt Gates, but not so much anymore. But, yeah, I'll have to look into that.
So I was trying to find a place to shorten, and I think I opened up something, and yeah.
Welcome back to your show, Paul.
Oh, the joy of, yeah. The joy of, I don't understand what's going on. It's only when I'm online with StreamYard that I'm having issues. So I don't know what to do with that, but did anybody actually have error problems besides Nicodemus, or?
I got in. The problem that I had was I have an ad blocker, so maybe the guy's got an ad blocker on.
Oh, okay.
And he's got to disable it if he wants to see that website.
I went out and closed. Red, can you put it in a shortener? Okay, because I was trying to find a URL shortener.
I got to it. Hold on. Let me get it. Hold on.
Okay. I think people should call or write a note or something. I don't think this person is a. I mean, you look at this person's violent history, and he's on the streets. There is no excuse for him being on the streets.
They'll call them
Is he in
Mentally.
mentally
jail?
disabled.
I'm sorry.
They'll call him mentally disabled when they want to preserve his dignity.
No, he was able to. If a person's meant a danger to themselves and others, there is a forensic place for him. And
Yeah.
I know we have a forensic place for this in this state, and it's local for me to. I mean, you know, and it's like a jail. That has the barbed wire around it. You can't leave without permission, and the guards
Wait,
are
they
state
have that in
prison
New
guards.
York?
Oh
They have that
yes.
in New York?
Oh yeah.
I'm shocked at
And
that. Really?
oh, it's been here. There's a reason why they called places funny farms, because they actually were farms and they actually were very therapeutic. They actually, people who were mentally ill would work on a farm and take care of things, and it actually would help them get better. So they might have called them funny farms, but they were actually good for the people. They were self-supportive, and now we just
But
pay
wait, they
tax
have.
money.
Wait, I'm sorry. No, I'm shocked. New York has involuntary commitment
Oh yeah,
because that's unheard of. No, that's. I mean,
no.
no. Illinois, we don't have
It's
that.
called forensic.
Um,
It's we call it
really?
forensic. Yeah, yeah. And
Oh,
most states have what they call um, forensic measures like that. Yes,
wow. Because I know
it's how
I know
it's the wording.
they're trying to reinstitute it in like these really lefty far gone cities like Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, San Diego,
Oh well, yeah. They've let everybody
Oakland.
out. Yeah,
Yeah, and they're like, no, we can't do that. Like, no, you actually can, and you actually should, because these people need mental health. They need help. They
they
didn't
need
live on the
help, and
streets of penalty.
they don't understand that they don't have the capacity sometimes to know enough to take care of themselves, and and
And
that's
it's a
from somebody
combination.
who did a. It's
Right.
yeah, it's a number of things. It's not something simple.
Yeah, it's a
Let me give you
combination
one
of
more
mental
story.
health and drug
Yeah,
abuse. Yeah. Right. I'm sorry.
yeah. Well, there's other things. There's another story
Yeah.
here I think that should be mentioned. Um, let's see. There's a couple of them here. ABC 7 said there's a rise in Islamophobia across the United States. The challenge now is how Muslim Americans can work with the FBI to stop it. They said they want the FBI to be partners with the Islamic Networks Group, ING, in South Bay. Oh, where are we talking about? Is this Cali? South Bay, California? San
Why is
Francisco
it
area?
why is it never mentioned about their phobia about against Christians and Jews? I mean, it's
Yes.
never mentioned.
Yeah.
To me, it's
And
frustrating.
the anti-Semitism that's embedded with just doing their praying. Let's talk about this. And the phobia against Christians and Jews just by their praying Surah 1.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
how
17
dare
times a
we
day.
use common sense?
I mean, there's so much here that's going on. I've been trying to stay up on stuff, and part of this is I'm working with Usama Dakdak and helping him with one of the things he does every week, which is he does a news show on VCY, and I'm telling people you want to pay attention to that because it's more than. I mean, I worked together with him and helped produce this. And I'm just saying his work, I mean, the stuff that he shares, even just on the news stories, it's kind of mind numbing. Um, we need to be informed is what it comes down to. And this man has the knowledge of, I mean, he has that background to know how things are working. And I just find his information incredibly valuable. And that's one of the reasons I work with him. That's what it comes down to. There's a lot of stuff happening. Start doing your own Google searches for forced marriage, forced conversion. Start doing your own searches for rape in the name Muhammad. It's happening today, people. There was one we covered last week. 2 Muhammads raped a woman in Brooklyn. 2 Muhammads. And they did it at knife point in front of others. They forced the others to watch. And this is the stuff that's going on. Actually, I think it was around New Year's Eve, that time period, but we covered this story last week. Watch, you want to catch VCY, and this is a weekly broadcast on Friday at Friday Central Time noon. Start watching for some of these things. Usama's doing a lot of work that's, I don't think most of us catch it. He's doing different languages. He works with people from Indonesia and different places. Works with people doing Urdu, and it's a lot of work. And again, the goal here is twofold. One is to get the Christians informed and everybody else informed. The other thing is to give people the gospel, and so they can find Christ. I am running late tonight, and I'm not going to play that tonight. I think it's, if you're listening to this show, my suggestion is to go to my last show and play the last 10 minutes. I'm just a little tired. When you go 2 hours, it's a long time when you're doing this kind of broadcast, and especially when you're fighting with StreamYard. But this last time, it wasn't StreamYard. It was my network. And I've got to figure out why that's happening, because it shouldn't be happening.
Thank you, Paul.
Everybody, I want to say thank you. It's been great to have you here. Sharon, anybody last words? Sharon, you're here first. Yeah.
Just thank you, Paul. I think I've said enough while the video was running. Okay.
Yep. Darcy?
No, just thanks. It's a great show as always. Keep up the good work. And keep praying. Keep praying. That's all we can do.
Yeah. I'll ask for your prayers, for everybody's prayers, to keep me on task doing this research. I mean, it's not easy work, because, to be honest, sometimes it's tiresome. But I've got a new thing I'm going to be sharing with you in the near future. That I think some people will be amused with it in the long run. We'll see how things go. Red, any last words?
Just, always choose the cow. And let's go, Brandon, and get on the Trump train and MAGA 2024.
All right.
But
I do want to answer. Yeah, I do want to. It's just the cow, just not the second, sir. John Wilson, if you want Usama to come to your church, all you have to do is go to thestraightway.org. You can write Usama a note, have your pastor write him a note, whatever, and you can communicate through thestraightway.org, and you can get a hold of him. It's Usama at thestraightway.org, and you communicate with him, and he will show up. He'll make an arrangement. He doesn't charge a fee. The goal here, as he points out over and over again, the scriptures say, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." We can't allow that anymore. I got into doing apologetics because I realized how much we don't know, but I didn't connect it to that verse. And when I started learning more about concepts of heresy and cults, and that's nothing compared to what I've been learning about Islam and even the section I'm doing on Shariah. It's so mind numbing. And as Dr. Kufar's phobia said, when you read some of the stuff, you feel like you're losing brain cells, but at the same time, there's a shock value to it. If you don't know this stuff, you could be in danger. What do I mean by that? Will you know enough to protect your own children if you don't pay attention to some of these things? And the answer, sadly, is no. So pay attention, dig deep, do your own research. Don't trust the stuff I tell you. Go check it out. Find out if what I'm saying is true. And if I'm not telling you what's true, tell me. You think I'm wrong? Please provide the proof. Prove it to me. I'm willing to talk with anybody who sees something more. Take your time. Find the truth. God bless everybody. Stand tall and fight on for Christ.
Read my
God bless you,
private
everybody.
chat before you leave.
Oh, okay.
Goodbye.
Yes.
Okay.
I do want to say that it's important what Sharon did say, Sharon here. I think everybody needs to understand. And that was during Christmas 2023. Oh my God. Sharon, actually, I'm going to need that. I'm going to use that article too. I'll be using that this week. Thank you very much. I didn't see that one. So for those, I'm just going to point this out one more time. If you live in the North, like I live in New York, and you saw those Canadian fires affecting you, I want to remind everybody there that 89% of those fires, according to the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which means they drive cars today, 89% of those fires were arsons. And Sharon just shared an article with me that nearly 100 churches were torched during Christmas. Now you're hearing what's happening to Canada.
Oh, no, seriously. Wait, you got to hear Tucker Carlson's speech. He actually went to Canada, had a mega style rally in Alberta, Canada.
I heard about that.
Stadium. No, you got to check out his speech. And he mentions that he's like, look, if you're burning churches, I don't need to know any facts. I just need to know you're burning churches, and you're on the wrong side of this thing. And evidently, I didn't know that they were actually burning churches, but they are burning churches, right? I'm going to check out this article. You know what I mean? But evidently they are.
So I'm going to put that article out for everybody. I think this also should be shared. This is by Raymond Ibrahim. I know Raymond Ibrahim. He's somebody that I trust explicitly.
Do they know
his work is outstanding. I recommend this article by Raymond Ibrahim, who wrote this. It says, according to mainstream media, all of which are left of left. This is the biggest problem we have. All of Canadian media, with the exception of the Rebel.News,
which
is
cannot be
paid for. Yeah. This is all paid for by the Canadian government. Who's that sound like? We have a group that does TV and does radio. It's paid for by the U.S. government.
And Justin Trudeau actually brags, says, "Of course they will print what we tell them to print because we pay them to do that."
Yes. Oh. All right. God bless everybody. I'm gonna say good night, and everybody go enjoy a great night. Thank you.